Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. In this video I want us to discuss the things that you need to understand for you to be able to master Excel and work like a pro. This is a beginner's guide and you do not need to have any prior experience in working in Excel. And I hope you are ready, so let's get started. So I have Microsoft Excel 2016 open, and this is the screen that greets me when I open Excel. And to this left side here I have a button written Home, and this is where I can be able to access all this information about templates and the recent files that I had opened. And then there's a button written New, and that button is used when you want to create a new Excel workbook. Later in this video we will discuss what is an Excel workbook and how to create one. And down here there is a button written Open, and this still is a command that you can use to be able to access the workbooks and folders that are stored in your computer and be able to open one of them for you to start customizing and using Excel. Now I'll go back to the Home tab and let us discuss something about templates. Now templates are a very good starting point for someone who is not very conversant with how to work in Microsoft Excel. For example, if you are looking at creating an expense report, you can be able to choose from this expense template and use that template, which already has a pre-made information that you can customize and edit, so for it to be able to suit your specific needs and requirements. But now for me to be able to explain to you better how to use Excel, or for you to understand better how to use Excel, we need to create a blank workbook. That means I am not going to use a template in this tutorial. So I will click on this here, a blank workbook, and Excel is going to create a new workbook for me. So there are a few things or a few terminologies that you should understand before we go on with this tutorial. And the first thing is tabs. The tab is these things that are up here. So we have a Home tab, we have an Insert tab, we have a Page Layout tab, we have a Formulas tab, we have a Data tab, we have a Review tab, and the rest. So, and below those tabs is a ribbon. Now when you click on the Home tab, this that appears here is the Home ribbon. When you go to the View tab, this is the View ribbon, and below the ribbons, or the ribbons are made up of groups. They are groups of commands that are used to perform closely related functions. And if you are at the Home, the first ribbon is Clipboard. The second, not really the first ribbon, but the Home ribbon has a Clipboard, which is the first group. The second group here is the font, alignment, number, style, cells, and editing. Now the groups contain commands or other options that we can use when we are working in Microsoft Excel. And for us, sometimes if you are using Excel, sometimes there is a group like let me give an example of this cell and styles. You notice that every information is fitting on the space that is available for that group. But if you come to an example of a group such as this font, you notice there is a drop down button here, or a launch button, that if you click on it will be able to open more commands and options for you to choose to be able to use them when you are creating your Excel data and the likes. Let's click on OK and discuss another very important thing here. Now Excel workbook is made up of things that are called sheets. Now if you look at the bottom part here, I have sheet 1 active, and if I wanted to add another sheet, I will go to this plus button and click on it. Then I will have sheet number 2, click on it again, I will have sheet number 3. So I go back to sheet number 1. So a collection of these sheets is what forms a workbook, and a sheet is made up of rows and columns. Now rows have a horizontal alignment. That is to say that the rows run horizontally, like I have here row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, row number 4, number 5, etc. And columns run vertically. So the columns, like column number A, column number B, column C, column D, which runs vertically. Now if you look closely, columns and rows usually have an intersection, and the intersection of a column and a row is what is called in Excel a cell. Like if I click on this cell, you notice that it is an intersection of column B and row C. Now for us to be able to manipulate cells and move a long way in using data that is contained in a cell, we need to be able to name a specific cell. And cells are named by giving them a column reference number and a row reference number. So for us, this cell will be cell B3. This cell here will be cell D6. I hope that is clear, and you can now be able to name a cell by giving it a column reference and a row reference number. So column D and row 6 intersect to form cell D6. Column E and row 7 intersect to form cell E7. Now, having understood what a cell is and how to name a cell, we go on to discussing another thing, and this is a range. Now what is a range? In Microsoft Excel, a range is a group of cells. So if we take cell C5 this way to cell F6, this is a group of cells and it qualifies to be called a range. Now this is also a range, this is still a range, and having discussed that, I want us to then be able to know how to name a range of cells. Now a range of cells is first given the top the name of the top left cell, which in our case here is this cell, and this is cell C4. So you name it this way, C4, through the name of the bottom right cell, and this is the bottom right cell, which is E7. So the name of our range will be C4 through E7. Now how do we write that in Excel? So let me go to this formula here and I'll write for you we start with the C4, which is the top left cell reference, through E7, which is the bottom right cell reference. Now having discussed that, we can now be able to name ranges, or a range, which is a group of cells in Microsoft Excel. Now we have discussed the structure of a worksheet. We've looked at what a tab is, the various tabs that are there, ribbons, groups, the launch buttons, columns and rows, cells and cell names, range, which is a group of cells, and how to name a range. We've also looked at a workbook, which is a collection of the sheets that we create in Microsoft Excel. Now I want us to discuss a few other things, and I'll start by creating or doing a small data entry, and I'll start by cell A1. I want to create a table which contains the name of my students and their percentage scores. So I will type the title of this will be end term examination results. So for the first column, I'll type name of student, and you notice if I want to move to the next cell in the same row, for me to input data, I can use tab, and tab moves me towards the right. So if I use shift tab, I'll move to the left, and if I wanted to move downwards, I can use enter to move downwards, and for me to move upwards, I will use shift enter. And this is not the only way to do it. If you look at your keyboard, you have some arrow keys. There's an arrow key that moves up, the other one moves down, the other one moves to the left, and another one moves to the right. So you can still use those to navigate between the cells, and it will be very simple for you. It's also easy if you are using a mouse. You can move and click on the cell that you want to input your data. And so for this cell I want to write the percentage score, and the first name is, so allow me to type the names. So I have a table that contains the name of the student and their percentage scores, and I want to show you a few things on how to edit the cells or the table so that it starts looking aesthetically appealing. So I will start with the header here. I want to put it as bold, so I will select this cell, go to the home, and there is a group called font, and here is the bold. Alternatively, you can use Ctrl and B on your keyboard and to give you the same results. Then if you want to underline the text, you still can select the cell and go up here to underline. This puts it as italics, and the rest. You can also change the color of the title. Like if you go to this button here, there's a whole range of shades of colors that are available for you to make a choice from. And this paint bucket here is useful for you if you want to change the background color of your cell. So I hope you've gotten something from that. And if you go to cell A2 here, you will notice that I have typed name of student, and this does not appear full in the cell. So it's not a big problem, but you know, you might want to stretch this cell for it to show the complete text that you've typed. So to do that, I'll go to the intersection of column A and column B and make sure that your arrow shows, your cursor now shows a plus with double arrows to the left and to the right. I will click on that, and then you can drag it until your text appears fully. Now there is an easier way of doing that. You can just highlight the cell, then go to this intersection and double click, and you notice this column, the cells have stretched to be able to fit the text that we had typed. Now I want to put this title at the center, and I want to merge this cell, and that is cell A1 and cell B1. So what am I going to do? I'll highlight them, then I'll go on the Home tab, and in the alignment group I'll choose this option, merge and center, and that is what happens when I do that. The same thing with the column headings, like name of student and the percentage score. I will highlight them, and then I want them to be bold and just bold without an underline or the italics. So that's how you can do some editing, and you can be able to manipulate Excel to achieve whatever you want to achieve. This in Excel, sometimes you have a lot of data that you've entered in the spreadsheet, and sometimes you want to scroll down and you notice that there is this heading gets lost when you scroll so much. So there is an option of freezing panes, which for me I want row number 1 and row 2 to be sticky at the top when I scroll. So what do? I go to the cell, or rather the row below those two cells, and I light it this way, and then when I have done that, I'll go to the view tab and activate the view ribbon, and then from the view ribbon there is this window here, and you can see freeze panes option. So click and you get 3 options of freeze panes: freeze top row, freeze first column. And if you click on freeze top row, what happens is row number 1, which is the top row, will only be frozen and the rest will be like that. But now what I want is I want this row and this other row both to be frozen. So I'll highlight this, go to view, and then up here in freeze I'll do freeze panes. So you notice that now when you scroll, that this and this other row appears up there as sticky headers, and that will be very helpful for you if you have a lot of data that you've entered in your worksheet and you want to scroll up to the last data entry in that sheet. I want to show you something very simple here. Now when you have a number of worksheets that you are working on, you can be able to navigate or switch between sheets by just clicking on that sheet, and it will take you to the next sheet. So if I want to go to sheet 2, I'll come down here and click sheet 2. If I want to go back to sheet 1, I'll come back here down on sheet 1 and click on it. Let's say I wanted to give a specific sheet a specific name. So I'll go to the sheet down there, I'll right click and then choose rename, and then I'll call this sheet test scores, and I'll click out and the name will appear down there. Now it's a very easy way of managing data using Excel, and I hope you are learning something. The last thing that I want to show you in this tutorial is how to edit text or any given data in a cell. Now let's say in cell A3 I wanted to, let's say this is how I had written the name with 2 M's, and I want to rectify that. Now you notice there is something called clicking on a cell. So if you click just once using your mouse, you are now on a cell. Or if you try to type anything, it replaces everything that you had typed in the cell lastly. So that is not what I want. So I'll click escape button on the keyboard and it will take me back. So what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to be in a cell for me to be able to edit the contents of that cell. So I go to the cell and double click, and when I double click you can see now a cursor that has placed itself there blinking, and I can be able to move between the text, and I can delete any unnecessary letters and check enter, and that's okay. Now if you're trying to do something in Excel and you don't know what option you are supposed to use, you can come here on top in the blue ribbon. There is this button we written tell me what you want to do, and if you click on it, you can say I want to make my text bold. So this option will come here, you click on it, it reflects in the cell that you had selected. So it's a very easy way of searching for the commands that you want to apply on your cell, and it will be a very great way of you to be able to learn the basics of Excel without having to strain a lot. Now I hope this video has been very helpful. It is a simple beginner's video that is showing you the basics that you need to understand for you to be able to start working in Excel. And just as a recap, we have looked at the structure of Excel. We have discussed what are tabs, ribbons, groups, what is a launch button, what are rows and columns, what is a cell and how to name a cell, what is a range and how to name a range, what is a worksheet, and lastly a workbook, and how to do a few editings for us to be able to come up with the best layout of our data. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you will consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Until next time, keep learning.